They say styles make fights, and sometimes you can see a striker with a good ground game. Or a grappler with a decent strike, like Khabib's. It's almost certain that when things get tough, they'll resort to their base. But there are always exceptions to the rule. Today, we'll discuss one of these characters who could defeat and crush their opponents. He doesn't hesitate to exchange punches and kicks with whoever is in front of him. Welcome to the Ikaburso, to the Iron Mike of mixed martial arts, Michael Chandler. He was born in High Ridge, Missouri, United States. Michael Chandler, the second of 4 children, was raised well by his parents, Michael Chandler Sr. and Betty Chandler. His childhood was quite peaceful, surrounded by his siblings and attending school, but in high school he would join the wrestling team. Firstly, because it caught his attention, and secondly, because if he managed to stand out, he could have scholarship offers for universities, a method quite common in the United States to get into the good ones.
Oh, la la la.
In high school, he would stand out as an excellent wrestler. But when it came time to graduate, he didn't receive the big college offers he was hoping for. He received offers from less prestigious universities, but he wanted a reputable name on his college degree. Because of this, he took a leap of faith and joined the University of Missouri in 2004, also joining the wrestling team, colliding with reality. And the reality is that he was the bore of the team. All his teammates had won trophies, medals, and championships galore. And while he was a good wrestler in high school, this was a different level. Luckily, through discipline and hard work, he would manage to get on the level of his teammates, achieving a record of 100 wins and 30 losses. Part of becoming an All-American and being elected team captain for 2 years.
There were days when I had to kick him out of practice and tell him, "You can't train unless you find another wrestling room. You can't train."
And about graduating from college, he became interested in mixed martial arts, motivated by the success that 2 of his former college teammates were having. Ben Askren, who has a brutal rise and fall and of whom we have video. And Tyron Woodley, convinced that he could have a future in this sport, decides not to fight as an amateur and makes his professional debut on August 8, 2009 against Kyle Swadley, who is controlled on the ground and beaten to a pulp until the fight is stopped. Thus, making our protagonist's debut effective. He then briefly joined Strikeforce, where he won twice, once by technical chaos and once by submission.
Not bad, not bad.
Later, he joined Bellator, where he defeated Scott Stapp in under 2 minutes. And after this effective debut in Bellator, he adds 4 more victories plus 2 submissions. And he adds 2 more decisions, which raises his record to a perfect 8-0 and makes him the challenger for the Bellator lightweight title, which was in the hands of the dangerous Eddie Alvarez. Many remember Alvarez being dominated and nearly humiliated by McGregor in the UFC. Well, almost humiliated, but Eddie was quite tough in his time, and of course, both gave us a war in the cage. This is one of my favorite Bellator fights that I can remember. In round 4, Chandler's punch wobbles Alvarez, sending him to the ground where Chandler punishes him. He applies a rear naked choke from behind, forcing Eddie to tap out. Thus becoming Michael Chandler the Bellator lightweight champion. And despite having to fulfill the mandate, his next fight is not a defense.
What? What do you mean, no?
It's a fight against the Japanese Akihiro Gono, who was dismantled with punches in less than a minute. Now it was time to defend his title and become a full champion, a title that Rick Hahn wanted, but he could only aspire to. Our protagonist controls the entire first round, and in the second, he cuts off the oxygen supply with another beautiful rear naked choke. Then it would be David Rickles' turn, who would eat 2 right hooks that none did.
It's just that I felt a blackout. Everyone liked that.
Adding a knockout to our protagonist's record, until now he only had technical knockouts and submissions. With a record of 12-0, being the champion and with 2 defenses behind him, he has to clash again with Eddie Alvarez. Once again, an extreme display of patriarchal violence occurred. And after 5 rounds, where, without a doubt, both left everything in the cage, the judges gave the victory to Alvarez by split decision. The protagonist lost his title and suffered his first controversial professional defeat. And worst of all, he had just given Eddie Alvarez his revenge.
The only verdict is revenge.
But the bad news didn't end there, as he would have 2 consecutive losses against the same opponent, Will Brooks. Due to a hassle I'd rather not recount, they went to a 5-jump war for the interim lightweight title where Chandler would lose by split decision. And in the second, for another hassle I won't recount, they will fight for the vacant title, and Chandler condemned himself on this occasion. Well, in an attempt to take down, he slams his head against the canvas and the blow literally leaves him half knocked out. And it even seems like he didn't even know where he was standing. Brooks goes on top of him and hits him until the referee stops the fight. What a mess! Quite shaken and many predicting his fall, but not sunk, he manages to recover by submitting Derek Campos with a rear naked choke. And he clashes again with David Rickles, whom he beats up in 2 rounds. Adding a new technical knockout to his account.
This boy fills me with pride.
Bellator offered him another chance at the vacant title against a familiar opponent, Patricky Freire, whom he had beaten in his early Bellator fights. Chandler hit his opponent with a devastating right hook, knocking him out cold, a punch that would make Alberto Fernandez jealous.
Here I come, St. Peter.
Becoming once again the Bellator lightweight champion. On December 19th, 2016, he would have his first defense of his new title against Benson Henderson, a man who literally fought with a toothpick in his mouth.
What?
It's their culture and must be respected. He has a violent 5-round battle with them, including a suplex. After the final bell, Chandler wins the fight by split decision. But life seems to have decided that our protagonist was doing too well, so it decides to kick him in the balls. In his second defense, he would clash with Brent Primus, but once again, Chandler would make a mistake. He steps wrong and hurts his ankle. Which leads the doctor to check his foot, and seeing that he could not continue, stops the fight, causing our protagonist to lose, literally for stepping wrong.
This kid lacks intelligence.
After losing his title in such an unpleasant way, he adds 2 victories. Positioning him again as a title contender. He recovers it by defeating Brent Primus in a 5-round unanimous decision.
Revenge!
For a while, there was the possibility of pitting our protagonist against Patricio Freire, the brother of Patricky. This one came with a desire to avenge his brother and succeeds, despite his parents not putting much thought into naming him. After losing his title again, he adds 2 more knockout victories, one against Sydney Outlaw, and another one against Benson Henderson. With a 21-5 record, he opts for free agency after completing his Bellator contract. UFC president Dana White offers him a contract to serve as a replacement fighter in the match between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Justin Gaethje. The channel has covered the history between these two fighters.
What great news!
While he has won fights in the octagon, we shouldn't deceive ourselves. His losing streak in the UFC is broader than the excuses your ex made when you caught her with an unlocked phone. He would make his debut in the Ultimate Fighting Championship 257 against Dan Hooker, known in the universe as The Badass, and Chandler, who would do a quick job smashing him in less than 3 minutes. In his impressive UFC debut, he also earns the performance of the night bonus.
Money, the money, money.
Seeking a good fight and the chance to crown a new lightweight champion, it gives our protagonist a chance to fight for the title in his second fight in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. The champion at that time was Charles Oliveira, and they certainly both gave us a fight not suitable for the faint-hearted. It's incredible how close Michael was to being a champion, but that's life, and in life almost is never enough.
Amen, brother.
In UFC 268, he faces Justin Gaethje in another fight that promises to be explosive. And boy, did they deliver. After the final bell, the judges awarded the victory to Gaethje by unanimous decision. In addition, both took home the well-deserved fight of the night bonus, and in the end, the bout was chosen as the Fight of the Year for 2021.
Fantastic.
He would find victory again by grinding down an even more finished Tony Ferguson with a kick in the style of Anderson Silva. And look at this beauty in slow motion.
This is art. Appreciate it.
And despite doing well, he adds 2 losses to his record. But watch out, against 2 damn tough opponents. First, he would be submitted by Dustin Poirier. And then, he would fall by unanimous decision in a rematch against Charles Oliveira. He won the Fight of the Night bonus twice. In both of Oliveira's fights, there were 2 great moments when he grabs his opponent's back, including one in the first fight. And this one in the second.
Yes, yes.
He would spend a few months out, mainly because he was in talks to become the opponent in the supposed return of Conor McGregor to the octagon. What it meant was the biggest payday of his career, and he was certainly willing to wait. And in fact, the fight was relatively close to being finalized. However, while Chandler was in tremendous camp for the fight, this is what Conor McGregor was doing. He doesn't give a damn right now. Personally, I don't think he'll fight again. I could be wrong, mind you, but that's what I think. Noting Chandler's popularity, Dana schedules him to fight against Paddy Pimblett, an anticipated rising star in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. In another exciting fight, both fighters showcased their ground game skills and punching power. And when the fight came, as expected in a Michael Chandler fight, things started with a certain degree of intensity. But the difference in size and reach clearly favored Pimblett, who had prepared very well for this fight. And he knew how to take advantage by marking our proto, who, although he was able to knock down the Englishman, did not have the opportunity to punish him. But Paddy did punish Chandler as he gave him a beating every chance he got. In the third round, Paddy managed to control him and let loose a rain of elbows that forced the ref to stop the fight. Thus, Michael Chandler lost his place in the top 10 of the division, pushing Paddy closer to a title opportunity. Although more than one person expected Chandler to kill Paddy, he managed to come out on top and defeat our protagonist. But with Michael's history of losses, seeing him lose is no longer a rarity. His record currently stands at 23-10, placing him here on the list of pure mixed martial arts victories. At this point in his career, it's unlikely that he'll manage to become a champion. Does he have a chance? I believe it's more probable that Pedro Sanchez will resign before Chojas undergoes a gender transition. Or that we find a Yado student with 3 functioning neurons. That is, it's almost impossible, but the chances are there. Chandler likely isn't losing sleep over it. He's embraced his role as a show fighter who leaves it all in the octagon, win or lose. This has earned him public appreciation as they know that when he enters the cage, there will be some thrilling violence. Despite being married and being able to have children, he has chosen to adopt and has adopted black children. For some reason, this has bothered some people. Despite an imperfect record and a negative win-loss ratio in the UFC, he remains a formidable fighter. And I know the typical one will not be missing. I don't criticize myself for losing, as the skill gap between UFC and Bellator fighters is clear. That Galician fighter, but he's taking an average of 300k per fight, some bonus here and there. And with that, he's providing for his family, which is the ultimate goal of all patriarchal fighters. So we should ask ourselves, is he really doing poorly? Because up to this point, in all his fights, he has put on a great show. Ultimately, this is a sport and a show. Nevertheless, remember that he achieved his position through his effort, sacrifice, and discipline. 3 things that, if you apply them in your life, can take you very far. Thank you for being there.